first opportunists to head west to cash in on this windfall are the mountain men.
The wilderness drew young men seeking adventure in exotic lands with exotic places, with a lifestyle that guaranteed independence and practically no authority and lots of excitement.
Like America itself, the mountain men are comprised of an extremely diverse group of people.
There's a vast range of people who form this. People who are highly educated down to people who have no education.
The industry is soaring.
Again, the list here is sign reading, because the wilderness was full of signs. They were
For around every corner lurks a possible life-threatening situation. In exchange for the freedom of the wilderness, the mountain men have to constantly battle. Mountain lions, wolf packs, and especially bears are feared adversaries. The trappers learn quickly that they are encroaching in the kingdom of the grizzly, an animal that fears nobody.
The mountain men have made their way through the mountains by following streams. And it's along those streams is where it was a common place to find grizzly bears sleeping napping. I can't imagine what it must be like for the mountain man with those traps slung over his shoulder to wander down through one of those
Many times, mountain men died from grizzly bear attacks, especially she grizzlies. Somehow the mountain man had inadvertently gotten in between the she grizzly and her cubs. And then she would attack viciously.
One legendary grizzly attack occurs to mountain man Hugh Glass in 1823, when he is a member of a trapping brigade. Glass's background is obscure. Some say he is a seafaring man, maybe even a pirate who decided to move west. He is known for his wilderness skills, but this encounter with a grizzly pushes him to the limit.
He was attacked by a sow grizzly. One account said that the sow had 2 guns. He was put upon by this animal and just severely hurt. In fact, it wasn't if he was going to die, it was just how long he would live.
and he had
Two
been
men,
flight.
John Fitzgerald and young Jim Bridger, are chosen to stay behind Glass.
Labor breathing continued into the next day, and day after day, they spent a week at his side. Finally, he showed almost no signs of life, and they figured they'd have to move on. They say he had died. Well, they took his rifle, they took his gear, because the trapping brigade would ask why they left that behind. Well, Hugh Glass should have died. Somehow, he awoke from his coma. He found himself alone and without his gear. But he was so weak, he could do nothing but crawl. His back was infected with these wounds that he sustained in a grizzly bear attack. He dragged himself over a rotting log, rolled all over on it, and had the maggots eat the infection out of his back. Then he began dragging himself, because he's not yet strong enough to crawl or even walk.
Glass heads for Fort Iowa, a fur trading post nearly 200 miles away. Living on the meat of dead animals and rattlesnakes he finds along the way, Glass finally gains enough strength to struggle into a walking position.
Probably the only thing that kept him alive was wanting to get revenge on the 2 men who had left him. They deserted him.
At one point, he's almost crushed in a buffalo stampede. Another time, a scouting party of Indians almost sights him.
Finally, we don't really know after how much time, perhaps 2 or 3 months, this gaunt, skeletal figure of Hugh Glass came into view of Fort Kiowa.
Glass's spectacular trek to Fort Kiowa is one of the great survival tales in the history of the West. At the fort, other mountain men are stunned to hear his story of fortitude, strength, luck, determination, and obsession. Only a man with supreme wilderness skills could accomplish such a miracle. Glass nurses himself back to health and returns to work, but he is obsessed finding the two men who deserted him out on the trail.
He finally finds out that Fitzgerald has been hired by the military as a scout. And he knew if he killed him,
Very tough.
Basically, there are three different types of trappers. The first being the free trapper, sort of a wilderness entrepreneur.
man who is owned by him. He brings his furs into a long room and tells him what he wants, and he has no choice. Second kind of trapper is a trapper that works for a company. He's known by the company, but he works for the company. He has a contract with them, so all of his furs he sells to the company. The third kind, and by far the one that represented the most, was one that was literally owned by the company. Everything he had, the company gave him. Kind of like the coal miner back in West Virginia. Every morning he wakes up, he's a little more heavily in debt to the company.
Mountain men live their lives on the go. Therefore, every part of their daily routine is planned for maximum efficiency and the no-frills lifestyle. They eat what is at hand and prepare it with a minimum of effort.
The principal item of diet for the trappers was buffalo meat. Buffalo meat fried, broiled, boiled, roasted, pounded dry into chemical, any variety of ways. Now, of course, there was other meat, deer, elk, and bear, that supplemented the life, but the buffalo was the prime sustenance of the mountain.
Matches are rarely available, so they start their fires by several other methods.
Most people in 19th century America, and indeed out here on the frontier, were relying on the mainstay of making fire, which was a strike of either flint and steels, which a piece of flint to the steel was struck to make a spark. It was then put into some dry tinder, and that tinder with the burning punk inside was then blown into a flame. It was basically the same process that most hospitals used to start fires in their hearts back home. Another way of making fire, which was very, very common, was to use a burning glass, which is basically a very, very hot to eat.
The no-frills lifestyle also extends to the eating utensils.
These are the utensils that the trappers would eat from. There's a tin cup, tin plate, and knife and fork. And the fork has two tines as opposed to the 3 or 4 that we're all used to.
One of the few luxuries they do manage to carry into the wilderness is tobacco.
This is a clay pipe, and most fur trappers carry clay pipes or carry some type of smoking device. Tobacco was widely available. There are 2 types of tobacco: packaged tobacco, and also the other type was a tobacco twist. This is not a blended tobacco. This is just dried tobacco leaves. The difference between these two is that the tobacco twist was made for chewing as well as smoking.
The games the men play when they're together are usually limited to what they can carry in their pockets.
It might be something like play cards, or games like Race, Monty, games that were very popular during that time. They might play Levels, was a popular game as well. Even backgammon was played by some of the trappers during the 1800s. So there was different things that they could occupy their time with.
Yet most of their time is spent trapping or searching for new trapping grounds. The ability to seek out and find these new areas is an important factor in the success of any mountain. The trappers have no map to follow in their search, so they rely on nature.
Who's traveling?
When exploring unknown regions, road trippers have no clear fences.
the mountain were wild and woolly cannibals, and we usually assume they're also reckless. Well, bold, but not reckless. The ones who were reckless didn't last long and don't really grow up. They disappeared. The ones who really know about were the famous figures. These were disciplined men. They organized their expeditions with meticulous care, military-like discipline, preparation, organization, otherwise elite.
Perhaps Walker's greatest accomplishment comes in 1833, when he takes his party across northern Nevada and then to California over the Sierra Mountains. His route across Nevada comes to be known as the Humboldt River Route. It later becomes an important passageway for pioneers, stagecoach, the railroad, and eventually automobiles. On his journey, he sees some of the most spectacular scenery in America.
Took his party travelers along the crest of the Sierra Nevada and looked westward, down into the most spectacular glaciated valley in the world, Yosemite. Walker and his boys were the first white men to gaze upon that natural phenomenon, Yosemite Valley.
Here we began to encounter in our path many small streams that would shoot out from under high snowbanks. After running short distance in deep chasms, they precipitate themselves from one precipice to another until they are exhausted into rain below. Some of these precipices appear to be more than a mile high. See 1833.
Just days later, Walker and his men experience another of nature's wonders when they see the giant sequoia trees of northern California.
These are trees of the redwood species, incredibly large. Some of them measuring from 16 to 18 fathoms in the trunk, and at the height of a man's head from the ground. See below.
There is speculation that some of Walker's expeditions may have more significance than those seeking to find. Also, he participated in a secret mission for the United States government. For in 1830, he meets with Captain Benjamin Hamilton of the United States Army.
Bonneville was on captain who got bored with life in a country port, took a leave of absence to go out, he didn't think one of his out first time. Probably there was a hidden purpose to Bonneville's western expedition, which involved exploration, and this is the reason that Joe Walker signed off on it.
Bonneville was a failure as a traveler and outdoors man, but he accompanied Walker on many of his expeditions across the West.
Captain Bonneville's presence in the West is probably consecutive. There seems little doubt, however, that he had the backing of the commanding general of the army,
here a territory which was occupied by many different indigenous tribes. Imagine dressing with shirt, clothes, wandering into the territory that they're given them. In a lot of ways, the Trappist was his passport, the safe passport. If you wanted to dress in the way that you could be recognized and open to us.
There are some clothes better staying for both students and travelers.
After the fur trappers' shoes wore out, they would often wear moccasins. They would either make them themselves or have someone make it for them. This is a plain style hard-sole moccasin. It's very common, very fairly typical. It was the first time that the trappers would have been in contact with on their way to the west.
The trappers wear a lot of cloth clothing and also a great deal of leather. Cloth coats and leather pants are very common. The headgear they wear is often made of fur.
This is a hat that's made of a coyote pelt, and it's also decorated in fur trade mountain man Indian style. The feather is attached to the top. It's also got a piece of straight silver on the side, held together by stitched bead and also a bell. And these beads, a bell, and straight silver were very common items to trade to the Indians. So they would have been widely available to the trappers.
Working as a trapper often involves discipline, but the actual trapping procedure itself is brutal or very intense.
Everybody who was a trapper had their own secret technique. Some indigenous rulers of this central practices. But it's like these little personal practices that trapping processes.
Once a trapper finds an area that has a lot of population of people, he walks over there with equally invested in their sex streams.
Before sunset, no longer there is sunset. Take the trap, capture seven. All is broken up, with no down. Get it out into the water. Kill a prize on the spot. And leave behind the act. Wicked and cruel, artists, singers, and habitat artists. Last thing you're going to do is that you're going to take a second. Listen.
The sense the trapper views as way of saving the pasture lands. These lands free of self-stand the future of the territory. What the Western trappers need is a large town.
Began out to the Indian. After a while, he dropped all of it with the wood. And the wood started to break. By this time, it was deep, hard, white, bare, shredded, full of thorns. I hope the sun was back. Really bad. Suddenly stopped. Further back,
Gathering is held every summer at a prearranged location in the mountains. Trappers from all over the West journey to the site where they sell their furs, get resupplied for the next trapping season, and have a giant celebration. The first rendezvous was held in 1825 on Henry's Fork of the Green River. The concept for the rendezvous is originated by entrepreneur William Ashley. Convenience and money are at the heart of his idea. Before the advent of the rendezvous, the task of selling the furs they have gathered, as well as getting resupplied for the next trapping season, is a major task for the trappers. The rendezvous now makes it possible for them to conduct these business transactions right in the middle of the wilderness. The large fur companies bring in huge supply trains of goods and then sell them to the trappers. In return, the trappers sell the companies the furs they have gathered during the previous trapping season. During the early years of the rendezvous, the big fur companies have a virtual monopoly on the prices they pay the trappers for their furs and what the trappers have to pay them for supplies.
This ceased to be the case as the American Fur Company got into the mountains and posed a tremendous competition to the Rocky Mountain Fur Company for monopoly in the mountain. Then there was, for a few years, until Rocky Mountain went under, a genuine competition. But in any event, the prices that the traders charged were high, and the prices that they paid were low.
Although a trapper can definitely make more money in the mountains than he can with a city job, few mountain men get rich. As the years go by, it becomes very clear that the big money to be made in the fur trade is made by the fur companies and all those who supply the trappers. Besides the business aspect of the rendezvous, it is also the trappers' main social event of the year. After spending many months in the mountains away from civilization, they are more than ready to cut loose.
You can imagine what else went on. They were times of great athletic contests, horse racing, wrestling, shooting, tomahawk throwing. All of the skills of a mountain man were portrayed at a rendezvous, and they were done in competition with each other.
Rowdy would be a tame word to describe a rendezvous, fueled by whiskey with each passing day. Many American native tribes also participate in the rendezvous. The introduction of alcohol to their culture has a devastating effect.
The government actually made laws prohibiting the trade of whiskey to Indians, but it was done very widely and very freely. Of all the goods that were traded to the Indians, manufactured goods for buffalo robes and beaver hides and things, the most destructive single element was alcohol. And it dramatically changed the relationship between white traders, trappers, and the Indians. Alcohol was something that was both culturally alien to them and physiologically alien to them, and led to great destructive and corrosive effects.
With all the carrying on that occurs at the rendezvous, it is not uncommon for some trappers to come away empty-handed.
There were times when men drank themselves into a situation where they lost everything. Can you imagine coming into a rendezvous, and when you were all through selling your furs, you had $3,000 or $4,000 worth on the records, on the books of the company? The time the rendezvous was ended and you left, you were in debt, simply because you had gambled all of your money away, you had drunk all your money away.
Those trappers who keep their wits about them are careful to resupply for the next season of trapping. Two of the most prized items they buy are coffee and sugar.
This is sugar. Sugar, historically, during the fur trade period, came in cones. And it was packaged individually, and then in order to use it, you would have to slice off or break off pieces of the cone and then use it for your coffee or your tea or whatever you wanted to use your sugar for. And it was always brown sugar. This is a bag of coffee. Coffee wasn't just used for the trappers' consumption, but it was also used as a trade item for the Indians. trappers would often get raw coffee beans, and they would dry them and roast them themselves and grind these up with a coffee grinder or with ground.
Items that make life easier in camp are always popular.
These are a couple of the types of lighting devices that fur trappers would use to light their camps at night. This one is a candle holder, and in the compartment you would have your flint and your steel for lighting your candle, and also extra candle, maybe some extra wick, different things like that that you would need to use with the candle. This other candle lamp is called a pierced tin candle lamp, and this one has the compartment inside for the candle, and when the door is closed, the candle is lit, the pierced holes allow the light to come through, and it gives off a very nice, soft, subtle light.
During the height of the rendezvous years, trade items are brought in from all over the world for the trappers.
Tea comes from China, and it was manufactured and pressed into blocks, packaged, and shipped across the ocean for this trade. The beads are from Eastern Europe, and a lot of these beads are from Italy, Czechoslovakia, the Mediterranean. The silver is from Germany. German silversmiths were highly regarded as some of the best in the world, and a lot of the silver that was used in the fur trade is from Germany. The blankets are from England, which gives you a good idea of the globalness of this trade.
The rendezvous usually lasts for about 2 weeks. By the end of that time, everyone has just about had enough.
Gradually, it got to be a pretty maudlin scene with the general deterioration of a carnival that was fun into a carnival that had become a mean place. And finally, when it was time for the caravan to go back, all these guys hoisted their headaches onto their horses and split up for another year.
Often at the rendezvous, the trappers can receive medical attention, but back on the trail, they are once again on their own.
There were no doctors. These men had to learn to keep care of themselves. And I'm sure there were occasions when knowledge of maybe roots or serums or things like that the Indians knew could be used for treatment. A lot of the times when you needed medical attention, you weren't at a rendezvous, or you weren't at winter quarters. You were out in the middle of nowhere in the mid-north or central Rockies. And so then you had to keep care of yourself.
When medical emergencies occur, they are sometimes forced to do the unimaginable.
Tom Smith was a very accomplished trapper out of the Southwest. He was based in Taos and worked the Southern Rockies with the brigades that went north from New Mexico. And in 1827, Tom Smith was a part of one of these brigades. And as usual, he was out in front, not paying attention when an Indian shot him from ambush. The ball hit him in his leg just above the ankle and shattered the bone. Nobody really knew what to do, so Tom Smith called for a knife.
Amazingly, Smith takes the knife and then proceeds to amputate the wounded leg himself.
Milton Sublette then stepped forward and finished the job for it. Nobody expected Tom Smith to live because he wouldn't let them cauterize the stump. He applied Indian remedies, he got well, and before they got back to Taos, he had carved himself a wooden leg and fitted it to him. So Peg-Leg Smith, as he was known forever after, lived for another 3 decades.
Even when faced with the possibility of such wilderness emergencies, life in the mountains for some of the men is still more hospitable than life back east. For the mountains they go back to are welcoming to men from all different sectors of American society. The The trapping business is one of the few occupations in 19th century America that seems unrestricted. The only qualification is you have to be tough enough, smart enough, and good enough to survive. Many of the mountain men lead intemperate, rough and tumble lifestyles that could land them in jail in any city back east. Yet Jedediah Smith, one of the greatest trappers of all, is a pious man. Described as half preacher, half grizzly, he sets what is possibly the all-time trapping record in 1825 when he collects 668 beaver pelts during the year.
Jed Smith was also famous for never being without two things, his rifle and his Bible. He was a good Christian young man, and some people, of course, commented that his reading of the one never interfered with his use of the other.
Born in the Susquehanna Valley of southern New York in 1799, Smith heads west in 1821. Like many trappers, he has an ugly confrontation with a grizzly when he gets to the western mountains.
The grizzly bear jumped on Jedediah Smith and slashed him from head to foot. His men came running up and drove off the grizzly bear, but Smith was in pretty bad shape. He had had some ribs broken, and he had had his scalp pulled off all the way from his left ear clear around to the cheek.
After the attack, he urges his friend Jim Kleiman to patch him back together.
He said to Jim Kleiman, "Get a needle and sew me up." And so Jim Kleiman went to his possible sack and he came up with the sewing needle, he threaded it, and he sewed Jedediah Smith's scalp back on, clear across to the ear. But he told Smith, "I can't get the ear back on. You know, it was too much for his ability." Smith said, "Oh, but you must, you must." So Kleiman dug in and he sewed that ear back on and patted it up and put Jed Smith back together.
Smith has an extreme case of wanderlust. He travels over more of the West than any other mountain man. He is the first trapper to journey overland from the Rocky Mountains to California. The first to cross the Sierra Nevada from west to east. And the first to travel overland from Southern California to the Northwest. Because he can read and write, the maps and journals he makes describing his wanderings become priceless.
His journals have got to be some of the most important information we've got on the fur trade. And we know that there are some of his journals that have yet not been uncovered, that are still lost. Hopefully some time down the road, maybe some of those journals will be found.
I started into the mountains
With
with the
horses
determination
or
of
with trade goods or something that allows them to give up this valuable pair of hands.
These marriages often benefit the mountain men far beyond companionship. In certain cases, matrimony brings prestige to the trapper.
A mountain man with an Indian wife
You
had found a new home. 120 air miles southwest of Anchorage is a small Alaskan valley called Twin Lakes. With the help of a tripod-mounted, timer-controlled camera, he filmed himself building a cabin and literally carving a new life in the environment. We spent 2 weeks with Dick one summer and found a man with little need to advertise his inner reaction to the wilderness. His oneness with nature is an experience rather than an expression.
Well, the reason I decided to come in more or less full-time was in 1965. I was helping a welder pour a leaded bearing on a crab boat. We had a big ladle of molten babbit metal and poured it in here, and we poured it into that cupful, and there was a big explosion, and all this babbit metal come out just like snow, only it was molten lead, and hit me in the face and him in the face, and it got in my eyes pretty bad, and for a short time he didn't know if I was going to see very much. But in 3 days I went back to work, but I couldn't see very good, and especially from my right eye, and I was testing it every night to see if it was improving, and I moved in August the 1st. There was still work to be done, but it was livable.
Few of us pass even a day without seeing another person. For Dick, the isolation can often last 6 weeks or more. We wondered what it would be like to live so alone.
Lakes in summer, it's much easier than hiking the beach if the wind isn't blowing. If the wind's blowing, of course, you gotta walk the beach, but in good weather, why, you can carry a good load and travel a much greater distance with the canoe than you can on foot. I've never had any trouble with the canoe on the lake, but if I did, it would probably be the last time because this water is very cold, and I doubt that if I was 200 yards from shore that I would make it to shore. I find that a person alone is much more cautious than when you have someone with you, because you know that if you mess up, well, that's it. In the morning, when you check your sky, if there are clouds and they're moving at a rapid rate, even though it's calm on the lake, sometime during the day, this wind is going to reach the lake surface and you'd be in trouble with the canoe. So I would aim to go in that direction, so if the wind did come, I could ride with it coming back instead of against it.
No.
To me, the stuff that comes on the radio these days is just out of tune with the next something. How does this sound? All the problems the world's got in a place like that? I just couldn't see it. I didn't want to hear about it. Boy, this is pretty nice here. That's not fun. You know, it's like an old sourdough Nancy told me. He says, people come up here from the States and they say, gee, it's nice here. No hustle and bustle and gee, take it easy. And he says they're not here 30 days until they're trying to make it like it was where they came from. And then you have pretty much all the game. You have sheep, you have bear and caribou and moose, and many places have more of each, but not all of them. So that makes Twin Lakes a little bit nicer. I have to take the go on the mountain unless there's a good breeze. Because if it's calm, or just a very light breeze, why, you can't get close to what he'll spot you sooner or later. And if you got a good steady breeze from one direction, why, you can get real close, within 100 feet or even less. Without bear detecting it less. Stay off the mountain if it's calm, but you do, that's in the concern there. The two bears that I observed through the winter, one went in October the 10th, and the other went in about October the 27th. The last one was a sow that went in, and when she came out on May the 2nd with twin cubs, she had been in there since October the 27th, so I figured it was 6 months and better that she'd been in the den. I practice the bear system. In summer, get up early and go late, and in the winter, it's just the opposite. Go to bed at 8 o'clock and get up at 8 o'clock. When you live down in the valley, when you got mountains all around, you can't see out. And to climb once in a while and get up on top and look across the top and see new country and such as that, I think is a good feeling. I mean, you don't feel like you're isolated or anything like that. So that's when you can see. This camera is his poet's pen. His eye caught the smallest element of the vast beauty of the land. Well, you find high in that like that, or maybe you'll find maybe just one little flower, but certainly you see it just one, then you can walk for hours and not see anything. Just one, that one little flower happens to be there by itself. No more around. Think of that squirrel. She's no shoe cone. There's a little seed in each petal of the cone, and that is what he is feeding on. He picks the petal and he sorts out that little seed. In summer, I fished quite a bit. I lived on trout to a great extent for meat and berries. But I didn't kill any big game because for one man it's too much. Too much meat, too much would go to waste. During the first winter I spent at Twin Lakes, I'd cut a hole in the lake ice to get water for cabin use. On one occasion I decided to do some ice fishing. So I baited a hook and dropped it in, and I went out about an hour later, and I had a nice big lake trout. I pulled him out, put him in a big fan, and then swung around a while and put him back down. Flipped him back in. I just felt that that was a good place for him to stay. That's cool. I think he did anyway. Usually, after mid-August, you'll begin to see those red leaves and maybe a few yellows of the balsam poplar. And by the middle of September, well, then your colors are usually the best. What I noticed most about the fall colors is Twin Lakes country was the amount of red in the colors. Red, green, brown, yellow, but predominantly red. And one side of the lake, on the south slope, the predominant color is yellow. because of the Boston poplar and trees of that sort. And on the other side, it's predominantly red because of the bog birch and blueberry leaves. The barboo is an animal of the open country. He likes to get up on the high ridge where the breeze blows, keep the insects away.
Well, you might not see him for all summer long until running season, and then he loses all his good sense and comes right out in the open and afraid of nobody, and that's when hunting season opens and they say to him, somebody's looking for him.
With anything, with any game, sheep or caribou or moose or bear, just get in there and get your pictures and flatten them down. Just read them. The fall colors are really bright, about September to 15. They might last for a week in this condition, and then suddenly they turn down. And then you might get a good dusting of snow, just enough to make the countryside look gray. And then along about October the 1st, the creeks might start to freeze along the edge, and snow creeps down the mountainsides, and by the 10th of October, it can look like winter, and creeks be freezing up and waterfalls freezing. And you can figure on the winter setting in soon after October 10th.
Winter. Frozen dismal 50 below. Try wood this spring. Perhaps curiosity.
I was always anxious to get down after good snow because they say after snow you know who lives in the country when you're out snowshoeing, and you keep tracks. You can you can determine the concentration of rabbits where they are, and if you see a good number of rabbit tracks, usually there's tracks of the lynx cat, which is based on the rabbit, and tracks of the fox, and the wolverine, he runs his circuit. During the past winter, especially, there was 7 or 8 rabbits that congregated close to my cabin. They would just move in and stay, and you'd move out a few hundred yards, and you'd see very few tracks. And it appeared that they think that they were safer there because of the fox and the lynx cat. So they just gathered around close and stayed throughout the winter. I knew this ermine was in the woodpile, and so I went for a scrap of meat to tack to a wood log there and see if I could get him out for pictures. Put the meat on the wood log and then went for my camera again. When I came back, sure enough, he was there. And an ermine, when he gets a taste of blood, he becomes very bold, and it was no problem to get good footage. The first winter I was there, throughout the winter, the ice was groaning and cracking continually, just day and night. The ice was just talking something terrible. When the ice is young and thin and freezing hard, why, it has a sharp crack to it, a sharp report, The ice goes thicker, it gets deeper, and when it gets 4 feet thick, well then it's very low key. During the short days of winter, the sun is very low. It fails to strike my cabin from November the 7th until February the 3rd. But you climb the mountain across the lake, and of course there the sun is very low. But it does clear the mountain and shine on the slope where the steeper peaks.
With 6-4 wind, it was time to take a break. I was seeing like I could catch a fish or something. In the last few days, the open creekers got way over into the lake ice. I could see the pool of open water growing before my eyes. A pair of hardened ducks swam out from shore as I passed by, and began talking to me. I worked the metal spoon to keep them from crying, jerked it toward them, and let it drift back. Not a strike after several hands. And a snap. Then it moved. I knew ahead of me. A 15-inch grin, and up to my knee. A few sticks of wood on the coal, I got to business. But the smoke was together